Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. We're so excited to have you with us today. I hope you're ready to learn some amazing things to help you improve your English. Whether you're just starting to learn or you've been studying for a while, we're here to make your English learning journey even better. I'm Agnes, and with me is my wonderful co-host, Jasper.
Hey, everyone, it's so great to be here with all of you today. I hope you're all feeling excited and ready to dive into another fun and useful topic. Agnes, today's topic is really special, and I know our listeners are going to love it.
Absolutely, Jasper. So today we're going to talk about something really interesting. We'll be discussing how reading English storybooks can really help you improve your English. It's something that might surprise you because when we think about learning a new language, we often think about studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, or listening to podcasts like this one. But what about reading fun stories in English?
That's right, Agnes. It's one of the best ways to improve your skills without even feeling like you're studying. Reading storybooks can be a game changer for learners at all levels. But before we dive deep into this, let me ask you, Agnes, what makes reading storybooks so important for learning English?
Great question, Jasper. Well, when you read English storybooks, you not only improve your vocabulary, but you also learn how sentences are structured naturally. It's like getting a peek into how English speakers really talk. And the best part is that you can learn at your own pace. You can start with simpler stories, and then as you get better, you can challenge yourself with more difficult ones. Plus, when the story is interesting, you won't even realize you're learning, you'll just be enjoying the adventure.
That's so true, Agnes. And you know what else is amazing? When you read stories in English, you get to experience the culture of English-speaking countries too. Many stories have idioms, phrases, and cultural references that you might not find in a grammar book. It's like a fun, hidden lesson in every page.
Yes, exactly, Jasper. And it's not just about vocabulary or grammar. It's also about understanding the emotions, the atmosphere, and the way stories are told. Stories often use different tenses and forms, and when you see them in context, you start to understand how to use them properly in your own speech. It's a full language experience.
And think about how exciting it is. Imagine reading a mystery story, or a fantasy adventure, or even a romantic comedy. When you're caught up in a great story, you just want to keep reading. It makes learning feel like fun, not a chore. So, even if you're a beginner or at an intermediate level, storybooks are one of the best tools you can use.
Exactly, Jasper. And I know that many learners struggle with finding the right materials to study. Well, storybooks are perfect because they're easy to find, and you can choose one that suits your level and your interests. Whether it's a simple children's book or a more challenging novel, there's something for everyone.
And don't forget about the benefits of improving your reading comprehension. The more you read, the better you get at understanding what you're reading, and that makes a huge difference in how confident you feel when speaking or writing in English. It's all connected.
Right. And by reading regularly, you'll start to see your language skills grow faster than you might expect. But it's not just about learning from the words on the page. It's also about building your confidence. The more you read, the more you'll believe in yourself and your ability to communicate in English.
I love that point, Agnes. It's about building self-confidence through consistent practice. And that's what learning a new language is all about, right? Every time you read a new story, every new word you learn, it's one step closer to becoming fluent in English.
Absolutely, Jasper. And it's so important to remind our listeners that, no matter where you are in your learning journey, it's okay to start small. Don't feel like you need to read complicated books right away. Start with something simple, something you're excited to read. And most importantly, have fun with it. That's the secret to really enjoying the process of learning English.
Exactly, and we're so happy that you're joining us today, taking the time to improve your English. We really hope this episode gives you a new perspective on how to make learning fun and engaging. Thank you to all of our amazing listeners for being here with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate your time, and we hope you take away some great tips from today's discussion on how reading English storybooks can help you become better at the language. Remember, no matter where you are in your learning journey, you're doing an amazing job. Keep going, and we'll be here to support you every step of the way.
So, get ready, because we're about to dive even deeper into how you can make the most of reading storybooks to improve your English. Stay with us, And let's explore more about how you can use stories as your tool for success.
Thanks so much for staying with us, everyone. As Jasper said, let's dive even deeper into how reading storybooks can be an amazing tool for improving your English. I'm really excited to continue this discussion because I believe this topic has so many benefits that learners sometimes overlook. So, let's explore even more about how stories can help you become more confident in your English skills.
Absolutely, Agnes. I love how you're already getting into the heart of this. It's easy to forget how powerful reading can be. But think about it, reading doesn't just teach you new words. It gives you a whole new world of language experiences. Imagine you're reading a story and come across a word you've never seen before. You don't just look it up in a dictionary, chances are. You can guess its meaning from the context of the story. You might see how the character is feeling, or what's happening around them, and from this, you can figure out the meaning of the word.
Yes, that's one of my favorite parts about reading storybooks. You don't have to stop and look up every single word. You can often guess the meaning of a new word just by looking at the rest of the sentence. This teaches you how to read between the lines in English, which is such an important skill. When you're learning English, you don't always need to know every single word to understand the main idea of what's being said. And the more you practice, the better you'll get at figuring out meanings from context.
That's such an important point, Agnes. This method helps you become more independent as a learner. You don't have to rely on a dictionary all the time, and you get to experience the flow of real conversations and narratives. Plus, the more you practice this skill, the faster you become at understanding what you're reading, even when it's not 100% clear. You'll start recognizing patterns in language, and that's a huge advantage when you're learning.
Exactly, Jasper. And speaking of patterns, have you noticed how reading stories helps you learn grammar in a natural way? In school or in textbooks, grammar rules can seem like something you just have to memorize. But when you read stories, you see these grammar rules in action over and over again. For example, you might read a story in the past tense, and by seeing how it works in different contexts, you start to understand how and when to use it in your own speaking and writing. It's like learning grammar without the pressure.
Right, Agnes. It's so much easier when you see grammar in context rather than just memorizing rules. When you read a story, you see how native speakers use grammar naturally. You don't have to think about it too much, it just becomes part of how you understand the language. And think about it, every time you finish a chapter or even a book, you can see your progress. You've just read a whole story in English. How amazing is that? It's a real accomplishment, and it helps build your confidence.
Yes, exactly, Jasper. And you know, another amazing thing about storybooks is that they give you a chance to practice different types of language. For example, in some books, you might find formal language, while in others, you'll come across informal, everyday language. And in some genres, like fantasy or historical fiction, you might even learn special terms or expressions that belong to a specific time or place. Reading allows you to experience all these different ways of using English, and it makes you feel more prepared for any situation in real life. You'll be able to switch between formal and informal conversations with ease. Definitely, Jasper. And another great thing about storybooks is that they help improve your writing skills too. Think about it, when you read a well-written story, you're learning how to construct sentences, how to connect ideas, and even how to describe things more vividly. You get to see how authors use adjectives, adverbs, and other language tools to bring their stories to life. The next time you try to write in English, you'll be able to apply some of these techniques, and your writing will feel more natural and creative.
Exactly, Agnes. It's like training your brain to think in English. The more you read, the more your brain gets used to the structure, rhythm, and flow of the language. And soon, when you're speaking or writing, it'll feel more natural, almost like you're using the same techniques the authors used. It's a great way to start feeling more comfortable in using English every day.
You're so right, Jasper. And don't forget, reading storybooks can also improve your listening skills. How is that, you ask? Well, when you read out loud, yes, out loud, you practice pronunciation and fluency. You also get used to hearing how sentences and words sound in English, which will improve your listening skills when you hear native speakers. Plus, you can listen to audiobooks, which is a fantastic way to improve your listening even more. It's like having an English lesson with a native speaker anytime you want.
Oh, that's such a good tip, Agnes. Audiobooks are a game changer. They're great for listening practice, especially when you follow along with the text. When you read and listen at the same time, your brain really starts to connect the written word with the spoken word. And, over time, you'll start to recognize how words are pronounced and connected in everyday speech. It makes a huge difference when you're trying to understand real conversations.
Exactly. And we can't forget about how reading storybooks helps with your motivation. When you start to see progress and understand more of the story, it becomes addictive in the best way. You want to keep going to find out what happens next, and at the same time, your English improves without even realizing it. This is one of the reasons why reading is so effective. It's fun and rewarding, which makes it easier to stick with.
I love that idea, Agnes. It's all about enjoying the process and staying motivated. And when you're motivated, you're more likely to keep learning and practicing every day. And that's how you make real progress in any language.
Absolutely, Jasper. We really hope that today's discussion has inspired you to pick up an English storybook and start reading. No matter your level, there's a book out there that's perfect for you. It's an enjoyable and rewarding way to improve your language skills. We believe that with consistent reading, you can build your vocabulary, improve your grammar, and feel more confident speaking, writing, and understanding English.
We're so glad you joined us today, and we truly hope that you'll start reading more in English. It's one of the best ways to learn, and it's so much fun. Thanks again for being here with us today. Keep reading, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep enjoying your journey of learning English.
Yes, thank you so much for listening. You're doing an amazing job, and we're here cheering you on every step of the way. Remember, learning English doesn't have to be hard, it can be exciting and full of adventure. Keep reading those stories, and you'll see just how much progress you can make.
And with that, we hope today's episode helps you feel even more excited and motivated to continue learning English. We can't wait to see you all grow and improve, one story at a time. Happy reading, everyone.
Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. We're back, and I'm so happy you're still here, ready to continue our deep dive into the benefits of reading storybooks in English. As Jasper said, reading is an exciting and motivating way to improve your language skills. And today, we're going to explore even more ways that reading can make learning English fun and effective. So, let's pick up right where we left off, shall we?
Yes, I love this topic, Agnes. It's one of those that just keeps on giving. We've already talked about how reading storybooks can improve your vocabulary, grammar, and confidence, but there's so much more to this. One thing I always tell my students is that reading helps to expand your imagination and creativity in English. The more you read, the more you start thinking in English about the words, the sentence structures, and the stories themselves.
Absolutely, Jasper. Imagination is such an important part of language learning that people often overlook. When you read a story, your mind begins to visualize what's happening in the plot. It's almost like watching a movie in your head, but in English. This helps you to connect with the language in a more personal and deeper way. You're not just reading words on a page, you're living through the story, which makes the experience so much more powerful.
That's such a good point, Agnes. And that's exactly why reading stories allows you to get better at describing things in English. When you start visualizing the characters, the settings, and the events, you also start practicing how to describe them. You begin to think, how would I explain this scene to a friend? You're naturally learning how to use adjectives, adverbs, and verbs in a more creative way.
Exactly. And this creative thinking doesn't just help you when you're speaking, it also boosts your writing skills. When you write in English, you need to come up with ideas and express them clearly. The more you read, the more examples of effective writing you have in your mind. You get to see how other authors organize their ideas, describe people and places, and develop characters. All of these are essential tools for your own writing. So, reading storybooks is a fantastic way to train your mind to think in English, and that will reflect in both your spoken and written language.
You're totally right. And this brings us to something else that I think is super important: reading different genres. Many language learners stick to one type of book, but I really recommend exploring different genres to expand your understanding of English. For example, you can start with fairy tales or children's stories for a simple introduction to the language. Then, as you improve, you might want to try mystery novels, science fiction, or even historical fiction. Each genre has its own style, vocabulary, and expressions, so by reading a variety of stories, you expose yourself to different ways of thinking and talking in English.
That's such a great suggestion, Jasper. You're right, different genres bring different language skills to the table. And if you read books from various genres, you start to build a more well-rounded understanding of English. Let's take science fiction, for example. You might learn a lot of new vocabulary related to technology, space, and inventions. Or, if you read historical fiction, you might come across words and phrases from past centuries that help you understand history and how language has evolved. So, when you're reading across different genres, you're building not just your language skills, but also your cultural knowledge.
Exactly, Agnes. And we haven't even mentioned one of the best parts, the emotional connection. Stories have the power to make us feel emotions. Whether it's excitement, sadness, or even fear, you begin to experience these emotions in English as you read. This is such a great way to connect emotionally with the language. Learning words that relate to emotions, how to express happiness, sadness, frustration, or excitement becomes much easier when you read characters going through those experiences in a story.
Yes, and when you start feeling emotionally connected to a story, you also start to use those emotions in your language. It becomes natural for you to express how you're feeling in English. And remember, this is an important skill in real-life conversations. Emotions are a huge part of communication. Whether you're talking with a friend, a colleague, or someone you just met, knowing how to express your feelings in English can make you sound more natural and authentic.
Absolutely. And speaking of real-life situations, reading storybooks also helps with listening comprehension. You might be thinking, but Agnes, we're talking about reading here. Yes, but here's the thing: when you read, especially when you read aloud, your brain is training to process English more quickly. This means that when you hear someone speaking in English, your brain will be better at picking up on the words and sentences because you're already used to thinking in that language. It's like building a bridge between reading and listening. The more you read, the easier it will be to understand English when it's spoken to you.
Exactly, Jasper. And don't forget the real-world benefits. By reading books in English, you're not just getting better at English, you're also opening up doors to different cultures. English is spoken all over the world, and by reading stories in English, you get a glimpse into the lives, traditions, and ways of thinking of people from different backgrounds. It's like traveling without leaving your home. You can learn so much from these books, whether it's through contemporary stories or classic literature, and get a better understanding of how people communicate and live in English-speaking countries.
I absolutely love that, Agnes. It's true, reading opens up the world to you in ways that other methods of learning can't. And remember, the goal of learning any language is to connect with others. By reading storybooks in English, you not only improve your language skills, but you also expand your ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Whether you're talking to someone from the UK, the US, Australia, or any other English-speaking country, you'll have a richer understanding of their culture and the way they use language. It's like building bridges with people all over the world.
Exactly, Jasper. And on top of all this, let's not forget the self-discipline that comes with reading regularly. When you make a habit of reading in English every day, you're building a positive routine. You're making learning a consistent part of your day, and this helps to keep you motivated. It's like a workout for your brain. The more you read, the stronger your language skills become. And let's face it, when you're consistent with your reading, you'll start seeing results much faster than if you were only studying every once in a while.
That's such an important point, Agnes. Consistency really is key to making progress. The more you make reading part of your daily routine, the more natural it becomes. And it doesn't even feel like studying anymore, it's just something fun and enjoyable that helps you improve every day.
Exactly. And we hope that by now, our listeners are feeling excited and inspired to pick up an English storybook and start reading. Remember, the key to success in learning any language is to find activities that make the process enjoyable, and reading is one of the best ways to do that. Whether it's a thrilling mystery, an exciting adventure, or a heartwarming tale, there's a book out there for everyone, no matter what your interests are.
We're so glad you joined us today. And if there's one thing we want you to take away from today's episode, it's this: reading storybooks in English is a fun, powerful, and natural way to improve your language skills. So don't wait, grab a book, start reading, and see how much you can grow.
And remember, whether you're just starting out or you've been learning English for a while, you're doing amazing. Keep reading, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying the process. Thanks so much for listening, and we're excited to continue this journey with you. Stay motivated, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for sticking with us until now, everyone. We're so happy to be here with you in this final part of our deep dive into the amazing benefits of reading storybooks in English. As Jasper just said, reading is such a fun, rewarding, and natural way to improve your language skills. And I'm sure by now, you're feeling even more motivated to pick up a story and start reading in English today. But before we wrap things up, let's dive into a few more ways reading storybooks can take your English to the next level.
That's right, Agnes. We've already covered so much about how reading can improve your vocabulary, grammar, speaking, and writing skills. But there's still something we need to mention: how reading helps with fluency. You know, when you're trying to speak English in real-life situations, the more words you know and the more you understand sentence structure, the more fluently you can speak. By reading regularly, you get used to the rhythm and flow of the language. You can start speaking more naturally, without needing to stop and think too much about how to say something.
Exactly, Jasper. The fluency that comes from reading is really powerful. When you read a lot, you start to recognize words and phrases without thinking about them too hard. You start to feel more comfortable speaking English, which is something every language learner wants. Reading is one of the easiest ways to automate your understanding of English. You don't have to stop and think about each word. It just becomes natural, and this naturally improves your confidence too. The more fluent you feel, the more willing you'll be to engage in conversations.
I completely agree, and fluency is such a big part of feeling confident in any language. But what's amazing is that reading also gives you the ability to express yourself in different situations. Think about it. When you're reading a novel or a story, you get to see characters in all kinds of situations, whether they're arguing, apologizing, making decisions, or giving advice. These situations provide great examples of how to speak in different contexts. So, when you find yourself in a similar situation in real life, you'll know how to express yourself because you've already seen it in the story.
That's a great point, Jasper. Not only do you learn how to use different words, but you also learn the tone and style of language for various situations. For example, you might learn how to speak politely in formal settings from reading business-related stories or novels about the workplace. Or, you could learn how to have a fun, casual conversation by reading a lighthearted romance or comedy. It's like having a toolkit of language that you can pull from in any situation.
Exactly, and that's what makes reading so effective. It's not just about learning individual words. It's about learning how to use them in the right context, with the right tone, and in a way that makes sense to others. This is where the real magic happens in language learning. Reading opens the door to nuance, which is essential in mastering a language.
That's so true, Jasper. And I think another thing we should talk about today is how reading helps build perseverance and patience in language learning. Learning a new language isn't always easy, and it takes time. But when you read stories, you get to experience a sense of accomplishment as you finish each chapter, each book. Even when you don't understand every single word, you can still understand the story, and that sense of progress helps you stay motivated. Over time, you'll see how much better you've gotten, and that keeps you moving forward.
Yes, Agnes, patience and perseverance are so important, and reading storybooks is one of the best ways to develop both. It's like a journey, and every book you read is a milestone. When you finish a book in English, no matter what level it is, you're building your skills, and that's something to be proud of. Every step counts, and with each story, you're one step closer to fluency.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the enjoyment factor. Learning a new language can feel like hard work sometimes, but when you read something you really enjoy, it doesn't feel like work at all. Whether it's a fantasy adventure, a thrilling mystery, or a heartwarming story, reading can be a fun escape from the everyday. And the best part is you're improving your English without even realizing it. You're enjoying the process, and that makes everything easier.
That's such an important point, Agnes. If you enjoy the material, it doesn't feel like studying. You'll be so focused on the plot or the characters that you'll forget you're even learning. And that's how you keep your motivation up. You make the experience enjoyable. So, don't be afraid to pick up a book that really excites you, even if it's a little bit challenging. As long as it's fun, you'll keep going.
Yes, And remember, reading doesn't just help you improve your English, it also opens up a whole new world of knowledge and experience. Every book you read is like a window into a different part of the world, a different culture, or a different way of thinking. You're not just improving your language skills, you're expanding your horizons. You're becoming more knowledgeable and more connected to the world. And that's something truly special.
I couldn't have said it better, Agnes. Reading stories in English not only improves your language skills but also makes you more curious about the world. And curiosity is one of the best ways to keep learning. As you explore new genres, new authors, and new ideas, you'll keep growing not just in your language abilities, but in your understanding of the world around you.
Exactly, Jasper. So, as we wrap up today's episode, we really hope that you're feeling inspired and motivated to start reading in English. Whether you're starting with easy stories or diving into something more advanced, the key is to enjoy it and keep going. Remember, learning a language is a journey, and every book you read brings you one step closer to fluency.
That's right, keep enjoying the process, and never stop exploring new stories. The more you read, the better you'll get, and it'll be so worth it in the end. We're so grateful to have had you here with us for this episode, and we hope these tips will help you on your English learning journey.
Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this wonderful learning community. You're doing amazing, and we're so proud of every step you've taken. Keep reading, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying your English adventure.
We wish you all the best as you continue to explore the world of English through stories. Take care, and remember you're not alone on this journey. We're with you every step of the way.
And with that, we want to wish you the best of luck and success in all your language learning goals. Keep reading, stay curious, and we'll see you in our next episode.
Goodbye for now, everyone. We can't wait to join you again soon. Happy reading, and best wishes from us both.